Welcome back, everybody. Today we're discussing Shogun Episode 6. The episode begins with a flashback to 22 years ago at Azuchi Castle. It was quite exciting as I've been talking about my desire for these flashbacks for a few reviews now. We didn't get all the flashbacks I was hoping for. I was primarily hoping for more of, Toranaga in these scenes, and I'm still after some information about the uprising against the Taiko sometime after that. But nevertheless, this was a wonderful way to start the episode. It starts off by showing us Mariko and Ochiba as children meeting for the first time. We have these shots of them being little kids together, nothing but love in their hearts and energy to expend. We see them spying on their fathers, being reprimanded for something, and they are curious about why everyone is just so upset. Keep in mind, Mariko's father is the one that will assassinate Ochiba's father, something that I am just now fully realizing. The implications of that are quite massive, and if Mariko is trying to continue her father's fight, I think we can assume Ochiba may be doing something similar. At first, I really was thinking that Ochiba was on Toranaga's side, but it's seeming less likely as the sides are now being better defined throughout this episode. We see Ochiba's father executing people. On my second watch, it's more clear who these people are. I believe that they are Buddhist monks. The bald heads and wardrobe makes me believe this, but I don't really think it's ever said. If this isn't accurate, please let me know in the comments below. But I do think the importance of this is to highlight the early corruption that was discussed by Mariko previously. Mariko's father in the previous episode was said to have been an assassin that killed a corrupt leader. I think the corruption, if these are the faith that predated the massive surge of Portuguese Christianity later in the story, I think the corruption is that her father was taking money to get the Buddhist faith out of the area and allow for the early tendrils of Portugal, to start invading and setting up shop. Though, again, it's kind of just a theory right now. We see Toranaga holding back Mariko's father, telling him it is not time. The scene is as brutal as it possibly could be. A row of headless bodies and the heads just next to them, and a father that discovers his daughter was awake when she should not have been. He breaks from Toranaga and asks her to go back to bed, insisting that all she sees is a dream. It was gut-wrenching. She quietly steps back to bed and inches backward toward Ochiba. This moment of wanting comfort from a friend being made to stay quiet after seeing what true horror actually was is just, oh my God, it's incredible. I hope we get the shot of them doing this as adults, even though it seems rather unlikely with how things are playing out. But coming back to this and seeing this bond rekindled in this kind of way, maybe right before one backstabs the other or something like that, I feel like there could be some real power there. The point is to show their friendship and to highlight that above pretty much anything else. This beautiful moment where girls can just be girls and the expectations of womanhood are not yet any part of their worries. And then, of course, we get closer to them at that point. And we see Mariko in the courtyard using these sick weapons that I hope someone has a name for in the comments, practicing fighting with a friendly duel, which explains why during the escort mission she was just so ready to jump into action with the guys and started using the same weapon to absolutely murder people. We see her looking at a younger Buntaro and then discussing why her father is marrying her to a family of little worth. Mariko believes that her father must not love her, and Ochiba tries to reassure her. This is going to be an alliance, and they really do not need to worry themselves with the things that they cannot control. Basically saying, let it happen, and look away when it does. They smile and hold hands, this haunting advice so perfect for the time period, and then we see her being sent to her husband. A beautiful white gown, and a voiceover from her father asking her to stop questioning why, and to accept that she is part of something greater than either of them. Your duty is what remains. There is nothing more. Again, this absolutely devastating line that just shows how Mariko continues to serve after wanting to take her own life every year since her father passed. Later, Toranaga makes it clear, and she feels shame for wanting to end her life, but just the same, Mariko is not a person. She is a service to a grander cause, and nothing of her remains. After the title card rolls, we see Toranaga talking to his army, and the leaders of his clan stand close by. He gives a speech about the fight ahead and honoring those lost along the way. He calls John forward, giving him a fief near Kanagawa, worth 600 koku. Koku is essentially the area's GDP. It is a Like, a single koku is worth approximately the amount of rice that a single person could eat in a year. So having a fiefdom that generates 600 koku means that you had quite a lot of commodity to trade and leverage for your, for what you want to do. This was essentially his salary, alongside the title of Chief Admiral of Kanto and the General of the Cannon Regiment. This was a slap in the face of Omi, who was just appointed that role, but like Ochiba said at the end of last episode, it's no longer time for politics. He gives John 2 swords, and I'm not sure if these were the ones that he gave to Toranaga last episode, or if he still has those and these are different ones. I feel like they should have done a better job of showing where these came from, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. The speech ends with a hi, hi, ho, and good God, that was so cool. We then see a city cleaning up after a devastating landslide, and Yabushigi reading a report that thousands are dead and more are dead in the north. Omi is upset about losing his power, and Yabushigi is kind of a real one here. He looks around like, dude, we are in shambles. We are in this fight on what is probably the losing side, and we have to do what needs to be done at this point. It's not about the petty squabbles or fights for power or a game of friends and enemies. It makes me wonder if Toranaga and Mariko's father weren't in a similar position at some point in their lives 22 years ago. We then see John waddle back into his home, this disheveled boy praying on the other side of a wall from Mariko, who prays in Japanese to God as well. They both finish with an amen, showing shared interests and a closeness that she has never felt with her husband. We then travel to Buntaro, bowing before Toranaga at his army's encampment. He asks for forgiveness for transgressions against Mariko and John and says that he cannot help himself around her. Toranaga demands that they just divorce, and he doesn't want to, sinking into a sunken cost fallacy to justify why he stays in an unloving marriage. He says that he thought she would be grateful that he spared her life after her father killed the former leader, and reveals to Toranaga that she has been asking for death every year since. He says that she has been cold to him since this first started, and he was hoping that she would warm up eventually, but that has never happened. But now that John is around, he can feel something is different. She is warming up to John in ways that he has never experienced, and it is making him crazy. Everything that he's saying here is just trying to justify his own actions, but even still, taking what he's saying at face value, I could not imagine a life where my wife never opened up to me because she was given to me as an alliance marriage, and each year she begs me to take her life. Sincerely, I could not imagine living that life. I absolutely would have killed myself. But Toranaga assures that Mariko is doing only what he tells her, and that he must isolate himself for 7 days, and then shares an awkward glance with the man that's stealing his woman. John is here to turn down the offer from Toranaga and reaffirm what he wants, being that he needs to sail to his home with his men and not be here. The conversation is tense. Toranaga wants to know which service he would prefer if not the Cannon Regiment, truly not hearing what John wants. John says that if he must stay, he would still be given his ship and start his crusade with an attack against the Black Ship itself. John is not realizing the game here. It's not about being a falcon, it's about being the one who handles the falcons. Toranaga does not wish to attack a friendly nation because, again, they have not declared war on anybody. Behind the scenes, we know that they are operating against Toranaga's wishes, and Toranaga instead wants to wait until he can use this information instead of telling the world and attacking someone because they have slighted him. John assures both Toranaga and Mariko that the Portuguese are monsters only here for profit, and Mariko breaks from her role and argues with John. Toranaga puts an end to it immediately, and then the conversation ends, dismissing John and lecturing Mariko about her role that she is supposed to play. He says that he will be denying John's request, but to settle his mind, he wants Mariko to arrange a brothel visit, and he wants her involved. It's another reminder of the role that women play in the society as a tool, as a pawn, as a servant. And the final remark that perhaps he will talk while he pillows is meant to make us question just how involved Toranaga's spies actually are and how he is getting this information. That makes it seem like he knows that the two have slept together. Honestly, I think he knows because he can just look at him, but ultimately it's meant to kind of give the illusion of who knows. It also makes me wonder if Fuji, the unsuspecting girl that nobody expects anything from, isn't one of his spies. He is the granddaughter of Hiromatsu, and I would not be surprised if this was the case, truthfully, but again, it's just a theory. Speaking of, We then see Osaka Castle set ablaze. They say that Lord Ishido has taken the other regents hostage, and they want to make a run for it. They try to get Toranaga's pregnant courtesan on a horse, but her late pregnancy prevents it. All but Hiromatsu stay behind, and it is a dark omen about the leverage that they could use against Toranaga later on. Hiromatsu apologizes for leaving them before slaughtering his way to freedom. The fathers talk about this lockdown plot being Ochiba's doing, and we know that it is based on how the last episode ended. Father Martin does not underestimate her like the other father does, and I wonder if that relates to him working so intimately with Mariko in the past, perhaps tapping into some confessions about what her father did to Ochiba's father all of those years ago, and realizing how these two sides could be forming against each other. They remind us that Lady Ochiba despises the church, and it's interesting. Her father was the one seemingly murdering Buddhists. If that's right. Nobody in the show actually says that. I just think that that's what it's showing. And the only thing we really know is that he was corrupt. It really seems like perhaps we're missing some piece of this puzzle. Perhaps Ochiba is maybe not Buddhist, but is just anti-religion entirely, explaining why she had the line about God being up his ass, all those years ago. But ultimately, we're not sure. We just have some kind of vague information about who she is and how she operates. And it seems like the church here is just not her friend. They discuss turning to Toranaga, and then we see Ochiba playing with the young heir's hair. We get some more flashbacks of a life she once lived and the night her father was murdered. She is sent away with a note of never returning, and Yachio snaps her out of this daze, possibly using this daydreaming to highlight the trauma she still experiences and some unwell characteristics that may be making her prioritize revenge over serving her former taiko. We then see the regents and their families being held captive, all watching a play about the story of Ochiba's father dying and then her being made the taiko's birthing vessel. It is a rather fitting play that I'm sure is making nobody uncomfortable in a room that she holds captive. Sugiyama and Kiyama discuss being Ochiba's prisoner, and Kiyama is not willing to see this in that light. Sugiyama is confident that this means the end of the realm, and we can see the other people thinking the same. This is the calm before the war, as everybody is slowly realizing that it is no longer a time of peace. This is best highlighted with the former taiko's wife talking to Ochiba about this being the time of peace that her husband was seeking after he died. It is a great play by this powerful woman who wants to make sure people know where her true support is, and that is for Toranaga. She is showing her cards, or her true heart, and Ochiba is being painted in a light that makes her seem almost crazy at this point. I think, taking everything at face value, this story is going to be Toranaga and Ochiba at odds with each other. However, because we know Toranaga is keeping many of his true feelings hidden, and Ochiba has been painted as this mysterious creature that just is suddenly at odds with him, I think we have to consider that at least some of her true intentions are being hidden as well. Something in the back of my mind keeps thinking about the assassination attempt in the story about certain Amida spies dedicating their entire lives to a single kill. This just must come up again, and if Ochiba is the one playing that role, God, that would be amazing. It may also be too obvious. It seems like maybe it's going to be somebody else, and I'm not too sure who. I mean, in kind of the way this is designed, it could be anybody. We also learned that Lord Ishido was the taiko's favorite kosho. This was a line that we needed after the regents were introduced to John during his prison stay, and we were only really given, this is the man who runs things now. Never really a full backstory. I still wouldn't mind more of this backstory, but she tells us that the taiko did value him to some degree. Perhaps he can be swayed to truly fight for the man that he once served, even if he lost his way along the journey and is being influenced by Ochiba now. A kosho is described as a squire, like a high-ranking bodyguard that served under a higher-ranking lord to train, to learn, and then become a samurai when the time was right. We then get another flashback of Ochiba being made the taiko's pregnancy vessel, the wife she now sits beside asking her this directly. She gives Ochiba a gift of a 100-year-old mirror, meant to be a token of appreciation that she was about to be a sexual tool for her and her husband's gains. That's when we get these rapid shots of something being ground up, her eyes dilating, and then her being dressed for a role that she was about to perform. She talks about the horrible things that she endured later, marking this as not something she was at all thrilled to be doing. They drugged her and did whatever they felt that they needed until she was with child. It's a harrowing look at the true nature of the system here. The honor, the feudal code, the patriarchy itself as a mask to pretend that they weren't beasts. They conspire to be away from these primal things and greatness while still being unable to afford their women the same aspirations. It is a blunt look at her past, and starting this episode with the love that her and Mariko shared as children seems to me like it's highlighting some real girl power moments to come. Life has transformed them from innocence to something else, and I think that something else is really what the rest of the series is going to dive into. The play shows these moments of Ochiba's life as an honor, as a story of prestige, when in reality her father was killed, and she was sent away for some time that we still don't know about. I'm still thinking that during this time is when she could have trained as an assassin, if they take that role, and then she's made to return so that she could be drugged and raped by the new leader of Japan until she had a child and could be put to the side while the Taiko's wife actually raises her child. I doubt that it is a story she wants to be shown in such a positive light, but I understand why she is making all of them watch this play now. They talk to the main actor from the play and ask that he becomes one of the regents on the council and helps vote out Toranaga. On the surface, this feels ridiculous. Like, why an actor? It feels like he is being picked purposely so that someone can highlight later their bad decision-making or something like that. Lord Ishido asks directly about joining the council and questions if he has heard about the plot to take the power from the Taiko's heir. This comes out of nowhere, and I think it's safe to assume that this is Ochiba's plot, though it is being delivered by Lord Ishido. She has him doing her bidding, speaking for her, and if things go south, I wonder how much of this will truly be blamed on her when she's not the one going around talking about a plot to kill the heir without any evidence. In fact, going back to the look that she gave her son in the lighting of this moment at the end of episode 5 and the trauma flashbacks this episode while playing with his hair, I really wonder how she views her own child, if she isn't actively plotting against him because she sees him as the product of the most brutal part of her life. She may even hate this child, resent him, and only see the abuser that was his father in his face. If a plot to kill the Taiko's heir exists anywhere in this story, I think it's her plot. They talk about the former Taiko and the massive shadow he cast over Japan, and his shortcomings in terms of getting rid of Toranaga. Lord Ishido asks why she hates him so, and is refused an answer. She says that if they are able to rid the world of Toranaga, it would be Lord Ishido's shadow that they stand in. This really feels so ominous, and considering that she may be plotting against her son, it seems like she really wants all of the people that were truly loyal to the former Taiko out of the picture and is offering the throne to Lord Ishido. Like, it won't be her son's shadow that they live in. It will be Lord Ishido's. And I really don't even think that that's her true intention. Like, it's so hard to determine what she actually wants here, but it seems like a chaotic plot regardless of what happens. The scene changes on a devilish foreshadow, and we return to Hiromatsu returning to camp and collapsing on arrival. We then see him being cared for while the major players of Toranaga's discuss what is happening in Osaka. They talk about their allies being pressured to rally against him, and Hiromatsu brings up Operation Crimson Sky. It is an all-out frontal offensive, rushing the council, dispatching them with haste, and forming their own government, essentially a shogun. They bring up Toranaga's half-brother as the only sure ally, and I personally cannot wait for that to happen and for us to meet them. During this meeting, Yabushigi and Omi are the voices telling them to wait and that it is impossible. I really feel like they're showing where their true allegiance lies, and Toranaga doesn't really address that. Instead, he just denies that he wants to be a shogun. That he wins because he is never the first to declare war, and I think that is a rather important note. Depending on what happens, him declaring war first after saying this line may be a great way to create suspense because we know he is doing something atypical than how he normally operates, or his enemies declaring war first could be a great way to create some false hope as things seem like they're going according to plan. I really can't wait until one of these things happen, and given how this episode ends with Crimson Sky being what they're going to do, we may already have our answer. He leaves after affirming he does not wish to be a shogun and that he never will be. A line that we really can't take at face value, even though he is our perspective of this conflict in a room of his most trusted allies, because we know everybody has three hearts. He may be keeping this truth hidden to all but himself, and man, creating a societal norm about having hidden truths and eightfold fences to hide your true intentions at all times is a great way to mask your plot with inherent tension. It feels like at any moment someone is going to betray someone and then monologue about the steps it took to get here, and it will be fine because they've established that every person is hiding their true feelings from every other person. And I love that so much. It is great writing. All the props to everyone who made that possible. Which then brings me to my favorite new character, Jin. She is the leader of the tea house, the Willow World, where men do the deed in exchange for currency. Her voice, oh my god, it had me. The way she speaks was perfect for this elder seductress role. She felt so powerful, so mysterious, so very much in control of assassins that I really hope she comes back into the story as the leader of the Amida organization, and it's not actually Ochiba, but that is, I think, just purely wishful thinking, because again, I loved every second she spoke. Oh my god. They discuss Lady Kiku, who, with such little evidence, I am still so sure is an assassin, and the two powerful women here start debating the price. These moments highlight the cunning that women possess in this story that often isn't able to shine when men are in the equation. The women talk so carefully but much more blunt with their intentions. She goes, "I'm sorry, I'm here for a lady of the night, not to buy all the tea houses in the region." And I laughed. It was so good. Just women being women. And the claws are out, each one sharpened for their own operations and the people that they support. I loved this entire scene. The mistress discovers that Lady Kiku is to please John and not Toranaga, and she chokes on her tea. The price goes to 200 for Mariko, and the mistress asks if she will be joining him. Her eyes wide, like she looks forward to a resounding, perverted yes. She says that she heard that her and John are never seen apart, and Fuji sips her tea like an absolute meme. If Fuji is the spy reporting all of the information about them to Toranaga or anybody else, this moment will just be so much funnier. During this exchange, we get half a dozen shots of them placing their cups down, facing slightly different ways each time. In truth, I have no idea if this means anything, and what I'm about to say is a complete guess, but I think it's meant to highlight where they are in the negotiation. Like, the graphic is not displayed while they're at odds with each other, and then slowly it's being turned to reveal like they're getting closer. Unsure, and I would love if someone with more knowledge about this culture, if this is even a thing, could fill me in and tell me if this is something or absolutely nothing, but I feel like they included these shots of these cups being placed down and then observed by the other person for some reason, and I really want to know what that is. They eventually end the conversation on 300 manmei, which is another currency that I may be pronouncing wrong, but I'm not too sure. It's closer to the silver standard, and someone on Reddit did a quick translation to today's USD, and it is approximately $900 back then. It is a steep price, but one that they are fine with paying. Which brings us to Omi and Kiku parting ways. Knowing how Toranaga operates, he 100%, without any shadow of doubt in my mind, knows the effect this is going to have on Omi and is using this to punish Omi. He is cucking Omi, who clearly has feelings for this woman of the night and is conflicted about what to do. He resents the barbarian that has now gained power he wanted, who will then go and sleep with the woman he wants, and if Toranaga is doing this purposefully, it seems like he is baiting Omi in a similar way that Omi baited Nagakado, and I really can't wait to see how that unravels. We see John and Mariko talking on the way to the Willow World tea house, and John realizes that Toranaga could know what has happened between them. It really feels like he may, but we don't know for sure. Mariko demands that there is nothing to know, and they enter Lady Jin's operation. Mariko says that everything they do is being watched and to be careful with what they do and what they say. It's great support that something more than just a brothel is going on here, and we see Lady Kiku approaching. Mariko tightens up, and John searches for guidance about this custom. She tells him not to make a scene, to essentially do what he must, and we get this shot of Lady Kiku pouring sake. It's more of a teaching moment for us than anything else, as apparently pouring is a lost art form. After some niceties and a weird lesson about empty spaces that felt like it was told to a child, Lady Kiku addresses Mariko directly, trying to affirm that this is a safe space and she can let her freak flag fly. She says a woman cannot look away when another suffers. It's a very direct line, and this entire time I'm just waiting for someone to admit to being a part of this Amida organization, but this is the closest we get. Some direct acknowledgement that these women are keeping score and will not sit idly by while others are being hurt. It is, again, quite awesome and reflects this underlying plot that it feels like a pro-women story that's about to unfold. We get this shot of Lady Kiku sitting down beside Mariko and the camera panning across until we can only see Mariko talking to John. It is ingenious, such a creative choice here, and I applaud it. The importance is that John really only has eyes for her, and it seems like this thing they think is a secret is just not. It may not even be that there was a spy and someone overheard them or saw them, making love, but more that their faces betray them, and the sight of two star-crossed lovers is one that is universally understood. Kiku talks about this place being a moment away from the real world for people that chase things that they may never gain. Mariko translates some of this as if it were coming directly from her, and just like when she was translating between him and her husband, this feels like her true heart revealing itself, saying the things that she actually wants to say to him, but cannot. We then see her have a flashback to her childhood trauma, much like the shots that we saw from Ochiba earlier in this episode. I think this serves as a reminder of her duty and reaffirming that she has a job to do and must suppress all other emotions or intentions. It is all about the cause. Lady Kiku invites both of them back to the room, and Mariko declines. He touches her hand, seeking comfort from the one person he actually wants it from, and she continues past him. It's truly such a complicated moment. So many emotions, nobody in the society able to just be who they want and do what they want because it wouldn't be proper. They then leave the Willow World the next morning, and John thanks her for a wonderful night. He and Mariko go their separate ways, and we see Omi upset, Kiku noticing before turning away. It seems like he could do something reckless, and these moments help define why. He is slighted, and again, I'm assuming Toranaga is doing this purposefully, which then brings us to the man himself. At the start of the scene, he briefly burns a note, certainly information sent from scouts or spies, and Mariko enters to explain how the night went. Toranaga then asks about her childhood and the friendship she once had with Ochiba. Toranaga says that Ochiba now wars against them, and asks what could make a woman do that. He says that all people have things that they must war against, but most do it with honor, to which Mariko replies with an absolutely killer response, addressing the patriarchy directly. To be a woman is to be at war, and that is just so powerful. Toranaga talks about Mariko's father as if they were old friends, and the shot we got from before where he is holding him back seems to support that. Mariko is upset with her father still, upset that she was not married to a better family, and that's when Toranaga drops the bomb. He married her off so that she was away from all of his fighting, so that when things went south, she was safe and could come back and finish what he started. She was ashamed, and Toranaga had a grand idea that he does not let us know anything about. And the scene ends. Probably something about Ochiba maybe making her go see her former friend or something like that, though it is entirely a guess. We then return to the Council of Regents and the new regent that is being voted in. Lord Ishido pushes the vote, citing a plot to take over the heir's throne, and it seems like only Sugiyama is man enough to stand up to these faceless accusations. He says that he will not vote until all of the hostages, himself and his family included, are released from Osaka Castle. The moment is tense. The word hostages offending Lord Ishido because, like everything else, they cannot call it like it is. The accusation that Lord Ishido is keeping them as hostages and not doing the lockdown for everybody's own good is a bold accusation, and he just delivered it in front of everybody. He then doubles down, saying that he dishonors the Taiko directly, and it felt like the entire room could have exploded into battle. It doesn't. And instead, we get a shot of Lord Ishido talking to Ochiba, another impeachment being discussed and the delay that this would have. Ochiba is not having that, though, and presses indirectly for the ambush against Sugiyama. She brings up her true feelings against Toranaga, true being very subjective here, and she cites her childhood, seeing Toranaga whispering to Mariko's dad, who actually gave his life and legacy to kill her father, while Toranaga was held accountable for nothing. She says that his secret heart is no secret to her, and oh, that felt so good. She doesn't want to say any of this in public for the same reasons that Toranaga doesn't wish to reveal his true intentions to anybody. She says directly that she experienced unspeakable things in order to create an heir for the Taiko, and that she made fate itself look at her so that she could scratch its eyes out. It's another ominous line that highlights some other deeds that she is doing in the shadows that I really want to know about. She is absolutely beautiful, and this actor is doing such a great job of creating this haunting smile. She is a ghoul, and oh god, I love it. It is so good. After Lord Ishido is affirmed that he needs to take fate into his own hands, we see Sugiyama waking up his family and making a run for it. They meet Lord Ishido on the road, and he talks shit before getting cut down alongside his entire family. The story that made it back to Toranaga was that bandits killed the family, though I expect that he knows better. Toranaga talks openly with his men about the upcoming war, traitors placing the heir in danger, and the only option left being the Crimson Sky, the swift assault against Osaka Castle that is sure to end in so much bloodshed on both sides. He says that he will call for aid from his brother, his half-brother, and I hope that next episode we get to see who this is. The episode ends with another hi, hi, ho! And we see this impressive shot of his army all ready to die for his cause. This was a grand episode, though I think episode 5 still serves as my favorite. Seeing the women talking much more directly, having bigger roles in a man's world, it felt so good. It felt like what is actually happening here. It seems like we have more of that in the future coming up, and I cannot wait to see how the true movers of this world are making shit happen. But with that, we come to the end of the episode. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that like button, comment your favorite part of the episode, and subscribe for more videos just like this one. We will be doing something for the 3-body problem and Fallout, which starts in a week or so. Thank you to everybody over on the Patreon that has been giving their real-life money to support my analytical art. If you are interested in being a patron of mine, please check out the links in the description below. But much love, everybody, and I cannot wait to talk to you all again soon.